China is helping the Islamic Republic to replenish its defense capabilities.
Iran has just confirmed receiving advanced Chinese missile systems in a massive arms deal.
Iran has taken possession of Chinese surface-to-air missile batteries.
Welcome to GVS Deep Dive. I'm Najma Minhas. 12 days of air raids, explosions, and escalating rhetoric finally ended in a ceasefire between Israel and Iran last month. But whilst media spotlights shifted, something far more important happened behind the scenes. Let's put one rumor to rest. No J-10Cs arrived from China. No cargo flights. No fighter delivery. That story is fictional, and it's been confirmed as such. But news is coming out that Iran has struck a deal with China to receive the latest type of long-range surface-to-air missile systems, specifically the HQ-9B, in a deal that trades oil for weapons. And the estimated cost of one regiment of HQ-9B system is approximately $1.5 billion. Neither government has confirmed the news that Tehran has already received surface-to-air missile systems from Beijing. Now, the news first came out in the Middle East Eye, which claimed the news and said that it was from Arab sources. The Chinese embassy in Israel has denied this report by the Middle East Eye, saying that China never exports weapons to countries engaged in warfare and maintains strict controls on the export of dual-use items. However, more recently, Newsweek has published an article that Iran is looking to pivot from Russia to buying Chinese weapons. So if they haven't arrived yet, they may be coming soon. Confirmed or not, one thing is undeniable. Iran needs this system urgently. The Israeli strikes expose vulnerabilities that can no longer be ignored by the country. The system is being used by other countries, including Pakistan and Egypt. Egypt confirmed its use of the system in July 2025 when retired Major General Samir Farag stated in a television interview that the HQ-9B system had been integrated into Egypt's air defense network. The advantage of buying from the Chinese is that there are no strings attached where those weapons can be used. It's crazy. What's the point of actually buying weapons when you cannot use them against your adversary? For example, when Pakistan bought the F-16s from the United States, they were told you cannot use these against India. The US has what is a strict end-use monitoring agreements. Now, these agreements limit how the recipient can actually use the weapon. In fact, in February 2019, when the Balakot skirmish happened between the two countries, the United States inspectors came to check whether any of the F-16s were used. Now let's start with understanding what are surface-to-air missile systems. They're known as SAM, surface-to-air missile. These are weapons designed to detect, track, and destroy airborne targets like enemy aircraft, helicopters, drones, or even other missiles from a position on the ground or at sea. Now, they form a core part of any country's air defense system. The SAM system isn't just a missile, it's an entire defensive ecosystem. It detects, it tracks, it will target, and it'll intercept. So think radar eyes, a command brain, launchers which are mobile or in fixed platforms that can fire the missiles, and then of course the missiles themselves with onboard guidance systems to hit that target. They can be radar, infrared, or command guided. The Russian S-400, you must have heard about it, is one of these type of systems. You may remember that Turkey bought these after the United States refused to sell it the Patriot system. As a result, the US kicked Turkey out of its F-35 program when Turkey went ahead with the sale. India also bought the S-400, but due to its strategic position as a counterweight to China, in the US eyes at least, it got a waiver from the CAATSA Act, which stands for Countering America's Adversaries Through Sanctions Act. Israel's Iron Dome falls under the SAM system as well, but it's with a very specific niche. It's part of Israel's layered defense system, which consists of the Iron Dome, which is short range, the David Sling, that is medium range, and the Arrow, which is long range and anti-ballistic. Iran needs a long range SAM system. It knows that that current ceasefire that it has with Israel and the United States is a tactical pause. It's not peace. Israel asked the United States to negotiate peace until it rearms itself for a longer war. Israel had not been expecting the Iranians to hit back as much as they did. It assumed it would have air dominance and that this would hold. Iran proved it could contest it and succeed. Iran basically shocked Israel and the West by hitting back harder than it expected. Tel Aviv and Haifa were hit, ports were disrupted, air superiority was challenged. And for the first time in decades, Israel faced a credible deterrent from Tehran. And the result was Israel blinked first. But how exactly will Iran defend itself in the next war? And is China secretly arming it with the next generation missile systems? So that's coming in, so please do hang in there with me. So we saw how Iran shook Israel's confidence in its air superiority. But now Tehran is quietly rebuilding, and this time we think with China's help. Iran has built a layered air defense system using both foreign systems, which are mostly older Russian ones, and some domestically developed indigenous systems, which are basically reverse engineered or modified from foreign ones. Remember that Iran was not legally allowed to buy any weapons under a UN embargo until October 2020. And until late 2022, it was legally allowed, but it was blocked from doing so by United States pressure. Despite its layered defense, Iran lacks enough long-range SAM coverage for simultaneous defense of its nuclear sites, Fordow, Natanz, Isfahan, or for its coastal defense systems along the Persian Gulf, and for urban protection that it needs for major cities like Tehran, Shiraz, or Tabriz. However, even with the S-300 and the Bavar 373 it has right now, Iran still needs a longer range coverage. It lacks that global reach and reliability that NATO or Israeli systems have. Iran's current network suffers from three critical weaknesses. First, it has a coverage gap. There is no unified defense for those nuclear sites, cities, and coastlines I mentioned. Second, it has an aging radar, which means it has outdated technology, which limits the detection range and its response time. And then third, it has a command fragmentation system, which means its systems can't talk to each other, which NATO systems can, for example. After the Israeli strikes, that patchwork was torn apart, basically. Key radar sites were destroyed, the command nodes were disrupted. Iran needs a strong air defense system, which makes it riskier and costlier for Israel to strike. Israel uses those advanced stealth aircrafts, the F-35s, and the United States has an extensive drone system which it can use to attack the Iranian airspace. Iran doesn't need a dogfight. What it needs is what is called a denial wall, and that's what the SAMs will deliver. Israel is rearming, and Iran knows it. Israeli officials have been quietly escalating procurement. It's ordered more of those iron beam laser batteries. It's accelerating its F-35I upgrades and the Arrow 3 resupply from the United States and Germany. And it sought much more expanded United States weapon shipments under emergency pre-clearances. The Israeli doctrine is shifting back to that quick decapitation that it believes in, which it's pursued since its Yom Kippur 1973 war. If the war resumes, that's what it wants to do. That means it wants to do deep strikes on Iranian territory, on its nuclear assets, and its air bases. And President Donald Trump has said on a number of occasions that even after the ceasefire, that he would hit Iranian nuclear sites again if necessary.
Would you consider bombing the country again?
Sure, without question, absolutely.
Now, it's believed that Iran has acquired or is in the process of acquiring from China its advanced HQ-9B, the export variant system. This is a modernized version of that HQ-9 with a maximum range of 200 to 260 kilometers and an altitude ceiling of around 27 kilometers. It's long range, it's radar guided, and it mimics the American Patriot and the Russian S-300 systems. It's capable of engaging stealth aircraft and cruise missiles and drones, and it plugs precisely those holes which are left open after the Israeli attacks. It features passive IR seekers and multi-target engagement with improved anti-jamming abilities. Now, why does Iran want the HQ-9B system and not the fighters? There was a lot of hype after the India-Pakistan war that Iran would ask for the Chinese J-10Cs. But the reality is that Iran knows it cannot win an air war. The F-35s are going to rule the skies. Its own aging fleet of F-4s and MiGs stand no chance if there's a dogfight. But the SAM systems, they're mobile, they're harder to detect, and they can be dispersed across terrain and various urban centers. What they do is they create denial zone areas where Israeli and American aircraft can no longer fly very freely. The defense doctrine for Iran is clear. It's not going to chase superiority, but what it's trying to do is build survivability. This is the asymmetry that Iran has mastered over 2 decades. When you can't fight like your enemies, you don't try. You fight on your own terms. It's the same logic that gave rise to Iran's drone flight, which is now shaping its anti-air architecture. Iran doesn't have the money. So China's reportedly delivered these weapon systems to Iran via what is called the Iran Weapons for Oil system. Iran's stockpile of sanctioned oil has long been its diplomatic currency, and China, already Tehran's largest crude buyer, offered the fastest route to rearming. China already takes around 90% of Iranian oil, which accounts for around 10% of Chinese oil import supply. But this time around, the deal wasn't just transactional. It's basically strategic. During the BRICS summit, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov publicly pledged assistance in restoring Iran's civilian nuclear infrastructure, which was also damaged during the Israeli campaign. However, Russian help to refurbish or replenish Iranian military weapons is likely to be much slower in coming, mostly due to Russia's own growing needs for those weapons and military equipment in connection with its conflict with Ukraine. Russia also realizes that 30% of Israel's population is of Russian descent. And certainly in any conflict between Iran and Israel, Putin would not want Israel to be destroyed by Iran. These citizens have a deep cultural, familial, and in some cases economic ties to Russia. Many of them still hold dual citizenship or have Russian passports. During the Iran-Israel war, Putin highlighted this fact. He said that almost 2 million Russian-speaking people live in Israel, describing Israel as almost a Russian-speaking country. And he recommended restraint to both sides to avoid civilian harm. During the SCO summit in Beijing, the Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi met with his Chinese counterpart to formalize energy development. Discussions on any military purchases, if they happened, were definitely not publicly announced. However, China has a strong relationship with significant interests in many Middle Eastern countries, including Saudi Arabia, UAE, Israel, and Iran. So it is not likely that it would like to get involved in a region during a period of active conflict or war happening. China condemned last month's strike on Iran by both Israel and the United States and offered to help to mediate a restoration of peace in the region. The Foreign Minister Wang made a strong statement in favor of Iran on its peaceful use of civilian nuclear facilities, and they promised to help Iran stand up to bullying, and said that China will continue to support Iran in safeguarding its national sovereignty and dignity, resisting power politics and bullying, defending its legitimate rights and interests through political negotiation. Liu Pengyu, the Chinese spokesperson, said on the issue that China will continue to contribute Chinese wisdom, put forward Chinese initiatives, and play the role of a responsible major country to achieving peace and tranquility in the Middle East. Coming to to the United States, Washington has a missile problem, and Iran knows it. The world knows it. During the 2025 Israel-Iran conflict, US Patriot missile systems played a critical role in backstopping Israel's air defense, especially during Iran's mass missile salvos. The Patriot batteries are overstretched. A recent Pentagon review revealed that the United States only had about 25% of its required Patriot missiles remaining, after supplying these systems both to Israel in the Middle East and other defense partners. Now, this prompted a temporary pause in transfers to Ukraine, which the president said that he didn't even know about. But the reason given is that the United States stockpiles had been rapidly depleted. Using THAAD is expensive and limited. American defense contractors are facing bottlenecks in rare earth materials, and the Pentagon's focus is split between Ukraine, the Taiwanese, and the Red Sea. Meanwhile, United States allies in the Gulf are watching. What they see is a post-West Asia emerging, one where Chinese arms, Russia mediates, and America reacts too late. One where China and Russia play an extremely important part in what's going on in the world, and the Americans react far too late. They're already hedging their bets in many areas by ensuring that they work both with China and the United States, and this is despite the United States' pressure to the contrary. And thanks to Netanyahu's desire for his own political survival, he's allowed Iran to become a prototype for survival under a full-spectrum Western pressure, which includes now those missile strikes along with the earlier sanctions, the cyber attacks, the diplomatic isolation. It's faced everything and it's come out strong. And now it's showing other states, whether it's Venezuela to Myanmar, that you can survive with that Western pressure, and that is why the United States has to support Israel again if the latter undertakes another reckless, feckless war against Iran. Potentially the weapons trade is just one chapter. What comes next will be intelligence sharing, joint radar coverage, and maybe even a satellite coordination with the Chinese. An alternative military order outside NATO, outside CENTCOM, is going to start to take shape. Thank you for giving me your time today. Do share with me your comments and thoughts, and leave your comments below. Have a great day.